Only yesterday, Zeus went off to the ocean river to feast with Ethiopians, loyal, lordly men, and all the gods went with him. But in 12 days the father returns to Olympus. Then, for your sake, up I go to the bronze floor, the royal house of Zeus. I'll grasp his knees, I think I'll win him over. With that vow, his mother went away and left him there. Alone, his heart inflamed for the sashed and lovely girl they'd wrenched away from him against his will. Meanwhile, Odysseus drew in close to Chryse Island, bearing the splendid sacrifice in the vessel's hold. And once they had entered the harbor deep in bays, they furled and stowed the sail in the black ship. They lowered the mast by the forestays smoothly, quickly let it down on the forked mast crutch, and rowed her into mooring under the oars. Out went the bowstones, cables fast astern, and the crew themselves swung out in the breaking surf, leading out the sacrifice for the archer god Apollo. And out from the deep sea Chryseis stepped too. The tactful Odysseus led her up to the altar, placing her in her loving father's arms, and said, "Chryses, the lord of men Agamemnon, sent me here to bring your daughter back and perform a grand sacrifice to Apollo for all of Achaea's sake, so we can appease the god who loosed such a grief and torment on grieves." With those words he left her in Chryse's arms, and the priest embraced the child he loved exultant. At once the men arranged the sacrifice for Apollo, making the cattle ring his well-built altar. Then they rinsed their hands and took up barley. Rising among the Chryses, stretched his arms to the sky and prayed in a high, resounding voice, "Hear me, Apollo, god of the silver and bow strides of the walls of Chryse, and Cilia sacrosanct, Lord in the power Tenedos. If you honored me last time and heard my prayer, and rained down destruction down on all of Achaea's ranks, now bring my prayer to pass once more. Now at last drive the killing plague from the armies of Archaea." His prayer went up, and Phoebus Apollo heard him. And soon as the men had prayed and flung the barley, first they lifted the black heads of the victims, slit their throats, skinned them, and carved away the meat for the thigh bones, and wrapped them in fat, a double fold sliced clean and topped with strips of flesh. And the old men burned those over the dried spilled wood, and poured out the glistened wine, while young men at his side held 5-pronged forks. Once they had burned the bones and tasted the organs, they cut the rest into pieces, pierced them with spits, roasted them to turn, and pulled them off the fire. The work is done, the feast laid out. The young men brimmed the mixing bowls with wine, and tipping first drops for the god, in every cup they poured full rounds for all. And all day long they appeased the god with song, raising a ringing hymn to the distant archer god who drives away the plague. Those young Achaean warriors singing out his power, and Apollo listened, his great heart warm with joy. Then when the sun went down and night came on, they made their beds and slept by the stern cables. When young Dawn with her rose-red fingers shone once more, they set sail for the main encampment for Archaea. The archer sent them a bracing following wind. They stepped the mast, spread the white sails wide, the wind hit full and the canvas bellied out, and a dark blue wave foaming up at the bow sang out loud and as strong as the ship made way, skimming the white caps, cutting towards her goal. And once offshore Achaea's vast encampment, they eased her and hauled up the black ship high, far up on the sand, and shored her with timbers. Then they scattered, each to his own ship and shelter. But he raged on, grimly camped by his fast fleet, the royal son of Peleus, the swift runner Achilles. Now he longer haunted the meeting grounds where men win glory. Now he no longer went to war, but day after day he ground his heart out, waiting there yearning, always yearning for battle cries and combat. But now, as the 12th dawn after this shone clear of the gods who lived, marched home to the Olympus, all in a long cortege. Zeus led thereon, and Thetis did not forget his son's appeals. She broke from a cresting wave at first light, and soaring up the broad sky in Mount Olympus found the sun Coronis, gazing down on the world, peaks apart from the other gods and seated high in the topmost crown of rugged, rigid Olympus. And crouching down at his feet, quickly grasping his knees with her left hand, she prayed to the Lord god Zeus, the son of Cronus. "Zeus, Father Zeus, if I ever served you well among the deathless gods with a word of action, bring this prayer to pass. Honor my son Achilles, doomed to the shortest life of any man on earth, and now the lord of men Agamemnon had disgraced himself, Ceres, in keeping his prized tears away from himself. But you exalt him, Olympian Zeus. Your urgings rule the world. Come, grant the Trojans victory after victory, till the Achaean armies pay my dear son back, building higher the honor he deserves. She paused, but Zeus commands the storm clouds, answering nothing. The father sat there silent, it seemed, an eternity. But Thetis, clapping his knees, held on clinging, passing her question once again. Grant my prayer once and for all, Father. Bow your head in assent, or deny me outright. What have you to fear? So I may know too well just how cruelly I am the most dishonored goddess of them all. Filled with anger, Zeus, who marshals the storm clouds, answered her at last. Disaster, you will drive me into war with Hera. She will provoke me, she will shrill abuse. Even now in the face of immortal gods she buries me perpetually. Hera charges me that I always go to battle for the Trojans. Away with you now. Hera might catch us here. I will to see this. I will bring it all to pass. Look, I will bow my head if that will satisfy you. That, I remind you, that among the immortal gods is the strongest, truest sign that I can give. No work or word of mine, nothing can be revoked. There is no treachery, nothing left unfinished. Once I bow my head to say it shall be done. So he decreed, and Zeus the son of Cronus bowed his craggy dark brows, and the deathless locks came pouring down from the thunderhead of great immortal king, and giant shock waves spread through all Olympus. So the two of them made their pact and parted. Deep in the sea she drove from radiant Mount Olympus. Zeus went back to his own halls, and all the gods in full assembly rose from their seats at once to meet the father striding toward them now. None dared remain at rest as Zeus advanced. They all sprang up to get him face to face, and he took his place before them on the throne. The battle goes back and forth. As the Greeks sorely miss Achilles and Trojan... Oh, my bad.